Hello, this is my screencast for my web app. So, the first step is to load node.js, type in cd, and go to my file. And use node server.js and start the server. I then go onto Chrome, type in localhost, and here's the Gym chat app. Okay, so a few different things on here. So the user firstly enters their username into the field, then click the room they want to be in, which consists of a few different rooms, which I'll show soon, and then the button to then join. So if they attempt to join without a username, this then comes up, so they have to fill in this field, which then gives them their name for the chat. So let's have Bob, who's going to be joining the cardio room. It joins the chat. Welcome to the gym chat. Types in a message. Say hello. That then shows up in the chat. So here then, this user can then obviously enter the message, send that message, of course leave the room at the top. So if they click that, OK or cancel, I'm not going to leave the room just yet though. It shows the name of the room at the top, being cardio, and the users within the chat. This is Bob. So if I just drag this over to here, and I then create a new instance of this. So localhost 3000. Let's get Billy. So it's going to join the cardio room. He joins. Billy has now been. It now shows to Bob that Billy has joined the chat, and it then welcomes Billy into the chat. So if he says hey, that then shows up for Bob. And that then shows up for Billy. So it shows up with the name, the time in which the message has been sent, and of course the content of the message, as well as the users in the chat and the room that they're both in. And if we just leave this chat, let's join the weight room, same person, join, and as you can see, if I was to send a message here, it wouldn't show up in the other chat, and it also shows that Billy has left the chat in here, as opposed to this doesn't show up. So let's get into the code for the app. Okay, so let's firstly talk through the server.js. So at the top here are all of the different core modules that we need to be able to do this. So of course the first thing that was brought in as part of this was Express, there was NodeMon, there was Node.js, and there was Socket.io. So all these have been said here, at least there's Express, and then Socket.io. This then, the different constants in the app, so user joining, getting the current user, the user leaving the chat, and the getting the room in which the user is in. Okay, so here, so this then makes sure that the server is listening to the app. So it then looks to see if there's any changes here, and this then initializes the Socket.io within the server. Further down below, then this then sets the static folder for this, which is of course the first sort of starting HTML, which is then replaced by the JavaScript later on. So this then means that the server sort of starts off with a template, which is then changed. So for instance, within the app, a new div is added every time a person sends a message, so it sort of divides that message up so it's easier to read. Next then, the gym chatbot is added. So that's of course what you can see on the app here. So if I open that up, so gym chatbot just lets a user know when something happens. It's just easier than the message just appearing, as it allows the user to have a bit more context and see what's happening. Okay, so here, this is what happens when the client connects. So the io.on means that it's just constantly looking to see if and listening to see if an event happens here. So in this case, it'd be a connection. It then uses an arrow function as parameter, so it looks to see if a person clicks join room, gets their username and their room, and it takes their ID from the sockets and it just builds up that sort of string, the array that comes from. And next then the user then joins the room they select. Next then is the welcome message for the user. So in this case it's just welcome to the gym chat with also, with the name of the person. So this then opens a bidirectional communication and emits or sends a message to the user. So this is only to that user, though it isn't to every user in the chat. So it's like, yeah. So this just sends it to to welcome Billy into the chat or something like that. This then emits it to the single client that is connected, not to every client. Sorry, my mistake. To the single client, to tell them that they've joined the chat, as only they need to know. Next then is the broadcast message for when a user connects to the chat. So socket.broadcast, this broadcasts a message to everyone except for the user when they join. So this then acts as almost like a notification that Billy has joined the chat here, or like Bob has joined the chat, or whichever. Yeah. And this then concatenates the username and has joined the chat. So it'd be like, for instance, Billy has joined the chat or something like that. This code here just sends the room info to the users. Next then is the actual, the listening for the chat message, which then is routed to the main.js there. So of course socket.on again, so it's listening for that chat message. And then it then gets the current user, so it looks for who sent the message from the URL, and then of course packages it all together, sends it. Next then is when a client disconnects. So of course with that leave button, the app will constantly be looking for if the person's pressed it, and then if they do, it will then concatenate so the username has left the chat, and it will emit that to everyone in the room, except for the user. And then the room info, which is the part on the left. So if I open that up again, there. So of course it says Bob at the minute, so that will then take the user and the room and put it in that list. So of course this part down here just sets the port for the server, so it's port 3000 as it shows in the URL, localhost 3000 there. And then this then tells the server to listen on the port for any incoming data. So whatever's coming through, that will just keep it listening. Next then let's look at the chat.html. Okay, so this is just like the starting sort of bit. So this is the part that is then changed using the JavaScript. Okay, so it just contains, of course, divs, the gym chat app names and all this, and then this is then changed when a user joins and all that. This is just almost like a blank page that is then changed as soon as things start to happen within the app. Okay, so this is a very important one, main.js. Okay, so of course these are just the constants that bring in the chat form, or the DOM as it's called. So the chat form can be changed by the JavaScript to create that sort of flowing page that it is now. Okay, and so here is very important. So this is what gets the username and the room from the URL. So that at the top of the app, if I open that up, so it shows Bob and room equals cardio. So that just that's what shows it here as well. So it takes it directly from the URL and just puts it in. This part here allows you to just ignore the other parts of the information. This part here just allows the server to connect and logs that connection. Just very simple. Here then detects the username of the person and the room they're trying to enter. So this then just obviously reads who's trying to enter and then just emits, if they want to join the room. Next then is the get room and users. It's the same code as almost on the server. And here then is the message from the server. So then posts the welcome message when a user joins. So if I go back to server.js, where is that? So like welcome to the gym chat, for instance, would be an instance of that. and then just outputs the message and things like that. Next then is the automatic scroll bar. So when a user types, let's try hello again. So it just brings that scroll bar, and then it will constantly move them towards the bottom of the page. Also, if I do that again, it will take them to the bottom constantly, as that's the way sort of normal chat apps work. So that's why that was implemented. Next then is the submission of a message. So to send listens for the submit button for the messages being sent. So of course just an event listener for the submit button. So this then here gets the message text. So for instance, hello. So it will just take the message, trim it down, make sure there's no spaces, and then just put it into the chat. Very simple. And then next then is emit message to server. So then sends the message to the server using emit. So the server then sends it, and then they send it. This then sends the message to the server, which then sends it back to the user as informative in the chat. Next then is just clears the input, the text box. So if I show that, of course, user just types hello, and it just clears the text box for them and refocuses on the text box so they can send another message. Next then is output messages to the DOM. So the DOM is of course the whole page, but here is where we're really focused on. So each time a user sends a message, it creates its own little sort of div. So hello, it will space it out nicely so they're easily readable for each user. So that's what that does there, and it just adds every single time a new message is added. It just adds a new div into the chat app. Okay, so next then is add room name to the DOM. So here, if I just go back into the app, so that's in, so cardio just adds the room name. So if I was to leave this chat, let's go, I don't know, lifting classes, AA, and then you go lifting classes now in here with the username of AAA. And this then adds the users to the DOM. So here, when a user joins the chat, it will just put it in that little space, and will then then it's more readable for the users, and then they can see who's in the chat as well. And here then is the prompt for the user before they leave the chat room. So this is of course very important because you don't just want the user to just click leave and they're gone, because then they'll be wondering what's happened. So as I showed previously, so the user clicks leave. So localhost 3000 says, "Are you sure you want to leave the chat room?" They say okay. They then leave. Let's go off that. So that's of course very important within the app. Let's go on to messages.js. So here, this will take the username and the text message. This will be returned as an object with all the elements. So this here pretty much just boxes it up. So it of course creates a function with username and the text. So, and it returns username, text, and the time for the message. So if I go on here, go into the app as Bobby, type in hello. So here it takes the name of the person, the text, and then the time. So the time now is 12:40, but it's 12:39 when it was sent. So that then boxes it up and then sends that to the server. So then it's all sort of boxed up nicely, and then it can be used. Let's go to users.js. So these are just the different functions. So if a user joins the chat here, it just takes the ID, the username of the room, and then boxes that up. It then adds the user to the array. So over here. Next time when the user leaves the chat, also does another part of it. And then get room users. So it then looks at this part for the users within the rooms. Next then is like the different parts of user join. So when a user joins, get current user. So it just looks for the ID, name, and the ID and the username. User leaves. So that's just if a user clicks leave, and get room users, which is where it looks for that. So next then is just the blank sort of HTML box. So here are just the different controls for the app. So mostly just the buttons, being for the chat. So here, let's go back once. So all of these are all stored in this part. and also just like the main sort of forefront to the application is stored there, and of course CSS, just how it looks. But yes, that's the end of the application. I hope it's worked well and all that, and yeah.